Hey folks, welcome back. It's another episode of An Idiot Tries to Make an Ancient Keyboard Not Be Broken. And this is the second video, although it's actually the third one that I recorded, because I recorded an entire second one and it was basically just me cleaning, which isn't really interesting. So I thought I'd sort of put in a montage of that here. And also I ran out of batteries on my main camera, so there's a lot of B-roll footage anyway, which captures my bike nicely, but apart from that you can't see much. And this is where we left it last time, albeit a little bit cleaner. Just one octave working, and if you hold down a note and press the corresponding note in a different octave, that note sounds as well, which isn't ideal. Cleaning didn't really show anything up more than I expected it to, but it does mean that, like, I know there's not stuff on the circuit boards possibly causing shorts and everything. It's like, if you have it clean and working how it should work, theoretically, it's easier to fault find. What a hair in my mouth. It's easier to fault find, especially when you're not having to like wade through 3 or 4 layers of crud. So yeah, when I was putting it all back together after cleaning it though, I noticed something. Now check this out. So when I was putting everything back together and just fiddling around with some bits, I noticed that when this particular connector was unplugged, everything worked except for 1 octave. And I've put some jump wires in here to see if I could isolate which particular pin it was that was causing the issue. And when I take out the middle connector like this, all but 1 octaves work. And annoyingly, it's the first board I took out to look at, so I must have missed something on there. But as you can see, or more importantly as you can hear, you can make a racket on it on almost every key. So yeah, that's weird. It's like the central pin, as soon as that's disconnected, which as far as I can see from the schematics is one of the power pins for that octave that doesn't work now. As soon as that octave is disconnected from the rest of the boards, it works. So yeah, maybe it's time to take another look at that board and see what we can see, huh? I'm kind of hoping it's something obvious that I missed last time, but who knows? Okay, so check this out. That's my amplifier not liking it, you know. Fantastic. And dual mode is working as well. Fantastic. I suppose I better tell you what I did. So I think it was in the last video where I said I can't tell if this is rust or a knackered diode. I was wrong. It was a knackered diode. So I've pulled that out from the board And that's all it was. Moral of the story is, if you're going to leave a classic keyboard anywhere, don't let it be somewhere that A, mice can nest in it, and B, don't leave it on the balcony of a tower of a block of flats in one of the rainiest cities in the UK, because that sort of thing happens. So my plan now is investigate what the diodes are, see if I've got something that's that I can replace it with, and button it all back up. Okay, so I don't have the diodes that I need in the workshop today, so I'm going to have to pick some up tomorrow and chuck them in. But yes, I've taken out the offending chappy from the circuit entirely, and I don't know how easy it is to zoom in on that, but there he is. I guess I'll be back tomorrow, and when I do come back tomorrow I will replace the diode, and just for the sake of safety, because it's older than I am and it's been through so much, I'm going to replace the caps on the power supply, and then it'll have another 40 something years of being able to make noise. So yes, I will see you tomorrow. Hello, hello, it's the next day and I'm ready to start putting it all back together. I looked for the diodes that I needed, or the diode that I need, and it looks like this particular one, most manufacturers have discontinued it now. But there are various types of switching diodes and various different sorts that are good enough to go in there. So I'm going to chuck in a 1N4248, I think. I'll double check that, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, so I'm going to go into the kitchen in the house to do it, because, I mean, look at the size of that thing. Should be able to... Pew! Yeah, I mean... my workbench is behind it. I can't... and I'm not going to shift it out of the way because it weighs rather a lot. So yeah, going into the kitchen, going to put this new diode in, and whilst I'm there, new capacitors for the power supply, because it hasn't gone pop yet, but given they're like 40 something year old caps, it's just a matter of time. I think for any retro kit really, it's worth doing a power supply cap swap just as sort of preventative maintenance. Only downside is that caps are made different these days, so like it's not going to look exactly the same as it did before they got swapped out. Like, these are taller and thinner than the ones that are on the board, and they're smaller because they've found better ways to make them. So it's not going to look exactly the same, but I think I'd sooner that than it go pop at an indeterminate point in the future. Yeah, so to the kitchen. Okay, so that's all the soldering done, so let's put it all back together and see if it still works. Honestly thought it'd be longer a project than it has been. Right, time to get on with it, I guess. Okay, so that's the output switch, which is no longer functioning, but it looks almost factory to be like that, so I'm okay with that. That's put back in and all hooked up and ready to go. I'll be testing this in a minute once I've got the power supply and everything back in. It's actually missing a washer and nut on one of the jacks, the one specifically for the sustain foot switch. As this is a survivor and it's kind of paying testament to its past, I think I'm going to leave it off, and if, you know, sort of not find a replacement. And if the owner wants to replace it, well, that's up to him. But I'm doing as little extra work as needs to be done, because I think it deserves to be kept like this as a relic, a survivor. Okay, let's chuck the power supply back in. This actually holds on really well because of these clips here. They're still in really good condition, so we might as well use them. And done. Despite the mingingness lookingness, the mingingness lookingness of those connectors, I've actually cleaned the insides up and they're solid and sound. They just, again, it's keeping its history. They work fine. I've checked the wires, they all work fine. It looks bad, but it's fine. Say fine one more time. So yeah, that's the power supply hooked up. Next it'll be this lad, which, yes, I said it before and I'm going to say it again. I'm really grumpy at myself for not spotting that that diode I thought looked really sus was actually really sus. But yeah, it's sorted now. It's been replaced. It's ready to go back in. I've also had to sort of glue a couple of these top pins, top connectors down, because some of them were bent out of shape and sprung too high for the middle part to move up to. So even though they were connecting on the bottom, they weren't connecting at the top. I noticed that after I'd switched the cameras off yesterday. So yeah, hopefully that will give us every key working. Right, executive decision time. I've got like one screw holding it in and I've connected everything up but not routed the wires properly. I just want to do that so that I can power it up, make sure it makes noise, make sure it's ready to all be buttoned up properly, and then if it is, I can carry on with it, and if it isn't, then it's not been put together too much to be able to take apart and fix. So no bangs or pops meant that I can get on with putting this all back together as it should be. I'm actually really quite excited. And there we go. It's all back together. It's done. It's I was expecting a Gen and got something completely different. And here we are, the Yamaha CP25. And here it is, the Yamaha CP25. It's an electronic piano, which sounds nothing like a real piano, but maybe kind of an electronic Rhodes, perhaps? Yeah, as I said in the first video, it's more of a single voice synthesizer than anything else. I've been reading up on the manual. These aren't voices, they're filters. So as it turns on as standard, filters 1 and 3 come on. This balance is filters 1 and 2. Probably really hard to hear that. Or 3 and 4. Mixed together, equally mixed, but the 3 buttons still not perfect, but it is nearly a quarter of a century old. No, it's not. It's nearly half a century old. Christ. Okay, so there's 2 oscillators, and this is the pitch adjust, and I think that's what the dual and single switch is for. So yeah, right. So 1 oscillator, 2 oscillators, 2 oscillators with 1 detuned. And back to unison. Each oscillator has a clicky delay switch, so tremolo, which is gorgeous. The flanger that is hard set, there are trim pots inside for it, but just that's a really beautiful flange sound. And then waveform select, so ooh, now that is very very sort of early Queen kind of sound. This is where I prove how bad I am actually at keyboards. Yeah, turn on all the filters. And then bass and treble controls and volume. It's beautifully simple. And then we can add a 5th and an 8th on top as well, so doesn't seem to work so well with, oh yeah, you can turn all the filters off, and because literally nothing coming out, but really bad 70s harpsichord, anyone? suspenseful. Haven't really shown it yet, but I mentioned in the previous video about the velocity sensing. So well, there we go. That was a much shorter journey than anticipated, I think. Wow. Hadn't really anticipated on things being so quick. You know, it went from no output but lights on to some output but only half working, and now everything works as it should and it sounds like it's meant to. And I can't wait to hand it back. I'm really happy. I'm really proud. It's. I'm also really gutted because it was like the first thing I said. Like, oh, it doesn't look particularly good. I'll just ignore it, and it turned out to be that. All that's left now is to send it back to the guy that owns it, and find another subject for another video, I guess. I know I've been doing a lot of repair stuff of late, and I don't want this to be a repair channel. It's just the two big parts of my life are being a huge nerd and a musician, and we've actually been sort of light on gigs recently, but that's because of things like, you know, working Boomtown and watching other bands and just life and stuff. It always seems that like traditionally bands I've been in have always had more gigs in the winter, probably because there's less summer stuff to do. I'm going to stop gibbering crap and I'm going to make myself a victory brew. Yeah. I'm happy. Right, I will see you guys in the next video, whatever it is. Stay happy and safe out there, and if you see something that you think that deserves to have another life, give it a go. It may only be a 15-20p component that you need to change to bring it back to life. I will see you on the flip side. Cheerio!